And let me just add this, it really doesn't make sense because how in the world can a guy put up these type of numbers, win the Heisman Trophy, dominate, have no flaws in his game whatsoever, yet NFL GMs are scared to draft him? To be 100% honest with all of you, I had a completely different video planned for tonight, but here we are. Instead of posting a video on what I was originally going to, we're going to talk about the ongoing controversy surrounding Bryce Young. It is being stated by NFL teams, quote unquote, that they'd be scared to death of drafting him. Not to every single fan, but I'd say to most fans out there, when you hear that, when you see it, you're like, why? What's going on? What's wrong with him? This guy was a star at the college level and he won the Heisman Trophy. This guy was nothing short than an absolute beast at the college level, so why would NFL teams be scared? My friend, that is an outstanding question, and it's also a question I have, and we're going to get to the bottom of in this video. It is the one and only topic we're going to discuss. You know how it goes. If you like college football content, consider joining our amazing community. It's free, doesn't hurt you whatsoever. You can always unsub later. All right, Matt, blah, blah, blah. Should have grabbed up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. As some of you have probably noticed, you can start to tell I'm getting my voice back and getting back in rhythm. For those of you that don't know, I had my wisdom teeth taken out and I'm still recovering from that. And also, like I told you guys, if I'm slurring my words here and there, that's why. I can't really open my mouth all the way. Regardless of that, the show must go on. And first things first, hold on. I know I said we're going to get into the Bryce Young stuff. That's the only topic, but somebody just tagged me in this and I do want to give my thoughts and show you guys. There's this viral tweet going around. And by the way, if you ever want me to talk about something in video, answer a question, just tweet it at me and 9 out of 10 times we answer or talk about it. But this tweet says, if you split the U.S. in half and start a war, which side is winning? Oh man, how do I say this nicely? It's not even close, at least in my humble opinion. And the reason I laugh at it is because it isn't close. The west side of this line, if you don't know what west is, it is the side with California, Nevada, New Mexico, and a portion of Texas. They have no shot whatsoever of competing with the east. Everybody knows this. West Coast, it's full of snowflakes, and your East Coast, full of dogs. And just look at the front line. Minnesota and Iowa, not really threatening, no offense. But I'm talking about Louisiana and Arkansas and Missouri. I know what you're sitting there saying. Yo, Matt, what's scary about Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana? Well, it's the fact that they got country rednecks out there that do not play around. That's scary. So if you somehow get past that, then you got to deal with Memphis and Chicago. Then if you somehow, it's not even going to happen, but if you somehow, some way get past the second wall, you got to get past 4PF Little Baby in Atlanta. And ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, the strongest part of the East Coast, which I do represent, by the way, from northern Alabama, the strongest part of this is Florida and New York. And I'm going to be dead serious. I think Florida alone as a single state could wipe out this entire western side of the line. I'm not going to give you examples. Florida, different breed. Florida is a wild, and I mean a wild place. And to be honest, the only state that somewhat concerns me on this western side is they do got a good portion of Texas. I will say, it does concern me a little bit, but that's all y'all got. I mean, seriously, what state am I supposed to be concerned with? I'll tell you this, I'm not concerned about California a single bit. Outside of that, am I supposed to be scared of Montana? There's like 300 people living in that state. Same thing for Idaho and Wyoming. And this is a football video, so I'm not going to talk about this too much longer, but also, and I can't mention every single state and major city, but we got St. Louis, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. I'm telling you, I have a hard time believing all these states on the left side of this line can get past the first line, which is the 5 states right here. I think we're unstoppable. We have the insane combination of rednecks and thugs. And the craziest part about living in 2023 is the media, it tries to divide us. But if you let these rednecks and thugs get along, it's over. It's ball game. End of story. And I'm going to be honest, there is a certain pride about this because as a person who lives on the right side of this line, anybody on the left, and I mean this disrespectfully, we're milli rocking y'all. I just thought that was interesting. My apologies for talking about it so long. Let's get down to business and talk about some football. We're just going to get straight into it. Like I showed you guys in the intro, it is being rumored and it is being stated that general managers for NFL teams are stating, quote unquote, they would be scared to death of drafting him, referring to Bryce Young. Why would they be scared? Because officially Bryce Young has been listed at 6 foot. And I remember at Alabama, they even tried saying he was 6'1", but I knew that wasn't the case. Everybody knows this. 6 foot means you're 5'10" or 5'11". But with the combine and stuff coming up and with him doing some measurements, it's being stated by scouts that he is only measuring at 5'10" and a half, which Yeah, that's a big difference. I know the difference from 6 foot to 5'10.5" doesn't seem like a lot. It's only 1.5 inches, but trust me, it's a big deal. It's a tad bit harder though to see over the O-line when you're only 5'10" and there's a hand in your face. So that is concern number one, and check out what Todd McShay had to say about all of this. Quote unquote, I love Bryce Young, I really do. I know he's 195 pounds. A really good friend of mine who's a scout had him at 5'10.5". But I met with him, I've talked to him, he's special, he's different. He has the poise, the presence in the pocket, the playmaking, everything else you want. I absolutely love Bryce Young, I would bet on him. I couldn't agree anymore with Todd McShay, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Well, actually, you know what, let's just talk about it right now. Let's get the elephant out of the room. Let me pull up these stats. I always like looking at them because it gives you a decent perspective. As we all know, in his first year starting for Alabama, Bryce Young, in his first year yet again, won the Heisman Trophy, had a phenomenal season. In 2021, his Heisman winning season, he completed 67% of his passes and threw for nearly, dang, I forgot it was this much, but 5,000 yards. He got close to it. He is at 4,872. That is unreal. Had 47 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. I don't think I should have to elaborate on that anymore. It's unreal. In the following season, 2022, he did miss a couple of games, but he was just as good. And to be honest, I thought in 2022, he was probably slightly better than 2021, although the numbers don't reflect that. But anyways, he completed about 65% of his passes, threw for 3,300 yards, had 32 touchdowns, and 5 INTs. Not too shabby. And it is key to note that he toughed out the injury throughout the later part of that season. Not only did I watch every single game of Bryce Young's, but I've went back and watched the film on it at least, I'd say, 4 or 5 times. I've rewatched all these games. I've watched so much film on Bryce Young, it's not even funny. I say that to say this. Sometimes with these college guys, the numbers, they can be deceiving, but in this case, they're not. Bryce Young doesn't just pass the test on paper, he passes the eye test as well. I've always said this about Bryce Young, but it holds true even till this day. He's the definition of calm, cool, and collected. He never gets too high and he never gets too low, and that's what you want in an NFL quarterback. Some intangibles that some players don't have. He doesn't get too emotional on the field, doesn't get too high, too low. He's even keel. In other terms, he has great poise. I wouldn't say he's Lamar Jackson athletic, but he's more athletic than what most people give him credit for. He could run more than he does, but whenever he escapes a pocket, he's looking to throw. He's not looking to run, and that's why I think he's going to be okay in the NFL. If he was a scrambler like Lamar Jackson, I would be slightly concerned, but Bryce Young, he doesn't like to run a lot. So I don't think you're going to see a case and scenario where they're concerned he's going to take a lot of big-time hits. So on a scale of 1 to 10 rating his dual threat ability, I would give him not a 6, not a 7, but a 6.5. He's not just athletic enough to run here and there. He is athletic, period, the end. And going back to how much poise he has, he knows how to sit in the pocket and stay still, which is rare for quarterbacks to have, even in the NFL level when they're going into it. Bryce Young's footwork in the pocket, it's already elite. I'm sure some of you have heard of this guy. I'd say he's pretty good. Jalen Hurts. Well, that was his problem early on in his career at Alabama and even all throughout college. Jalen Hurts had happy feet. He was always scrambling left and right when he didn't need to. Over time, he has learned to sit in the pocket, but at the beginning of his career, it wasn't that way. With Bryce Young, he doesn't need to work on it. He's already perfected it. And last but not least, as far as it goes for his arm talent, it's about as good as it gets. The only downside, and this is the only downside you can point to with his arm talent, and I don't even think it is a huge downside, is he doesn't have a rocket launcher like a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Bryce Young cannot throw some 65 or 70 yard bomb. Me personally, do I count that against him? Do I think that's a knock on his arm talent or ability? No. Because in what game-like situation are you going to be throwing a 65-yard pass? Maybe 6 times a year? For those of you that don't know, the greatest quarterback, the greatest player of all time in the NFL, Tom Brady, what was his bread and butter? What was he known for? Not throwing 50-yard bombs. He was known for dinking and diming up the field, and that's what the NFL is about. The NFL is about the short passing game. It's about taking those 5 and 10-yard passes. That's what made Tom Brady the greatest of all time, and that's what Bryce Young's really good at as well. It seems like I'm just meat riding this guy and hyping him up, but I'm not just hyping him up. These are cold hard facts. When it comes to evaluating Bryce Young, it's hard to find anything bad about his game because he's so good at everything. And that's the reason we've gotten to the point where we are today. There's nothing to knock on his game, so now people are pointing to other things like his height. We've seen this story before. Remember a couple years ago with Joe Burrow? People were quote-unquote concerned with the size of his hands. Like, what? What sense does that make? We're to the point where when you can't find a knock in somebody's game, you just point to some random thing. And oh yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, remember Devontae Smith? Everybody's saying, oh yeah, he's too skinny for the NFL. He's too scrawny, and yeah, look at him. Ironically enough, those 3 guys I just named off, Joe Burrow, Devontae Smith, Bryce Young, all of them won the Heisman Trophy. When you're to the point where you're as good as these guys and there's nothing to knock in your game, they point to some random thing. I find it ludicrous, but check out this comment because it is interesting. If Bryce Young was 6'3", 220, I would be talking about him like I talked about Burrow and Lawrence. Yeah, that's all there is to it. There's nothing more to add to it. Bryce Young's so good, the only part we can knock on him, the only reason teams are going, hey, maybe we shouldn't draft this guy is because he's 5'10.5". Now, I will say this, most people bring up, and I've heard this since day one, oh, well, Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, they aren't tall and they're doing just fine. My counter argument to that is, okay, yes, they're doing just fine, but Bryce Young is way skinnier than those two guys. The only thing Bryce Young needs to work on, and he is currently working on it, is beefing up. Because when you're in the NFL, you need that extra fat on you to take some of those hits. But as far as it goes for people saying, oh, well, he's going to get destroyed in the NFL, that doesn't make sense to me because, number one, Devontae Smith is going to take way more hits than freaking Bryce Young, and he's doing A-OK. And number two, did y'all forget that Bryce Young, he played in the SEC? This isn't like Bryce Young played in the Group of Five or the Pac-12. He played in one of the most physical conferences of all time. And also, another reason I wouldn't be concerned about Bryce Young taking vicious hits, because in 2023, the NFL refs, they take care of the quarterbacks, and you guys know this. I'm not even going to elaborate on that because it pisses me off, but you can't even touch the quarterbacks. So the entire weight thing, not even a big deal to me. At the end of the day, though, I will say this. I'm not going to act like I'm not at least slightly concerned about him only being 5'10.5", because I am. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not concerned at all, 10 being, yeah, major red flag, I give it a 2. The reason I'm going to give it a 2 is for the reason we really haven't seen a 5'10" quarterback dominate the NFL. So just for the unknown, that's why I'm going to give it a 2. But besides that, here's one thing I live my life by as a former athlete myself. I know this, and if you're a former athlete, you know this. If you can hoop or if you can play ball, you can play ball. In 2023, these nerds come up with these superficial facts trying to justify as to why a guy's going to flop or whatnot. Me, myself, I don't try to overcomplicate it. If a guy can play, he can play. And last but not least, before I end off this video, it may sound cliche and corny, but Bryce Young, coming out of college, is the same case and scenario as Steph Curry. It's the same case and scenario. Steph Curry balled out in college. What was the concern? His height and weight. And even to this day, Steph Curry is a liability on defense, but he's so good at offense, it makes up for it. So you can be concerned about Bryce Young all you want, but I'll tell you this. If I pass up on this guy and take another quarterback ahead of him, I don't know if I could sleep at night. And that's why I think for the Chicago Bears, they got a tougher decision than what most people think. I'm 80% sure that they're going to trade the pick and they're not going to take Bryce Young. But man, could you imagine, let's say Justin Fields, he winds up flopping and then Bryce Young comes into the league and within 2 or 3 years, he's leading a team to a Super Bowl? The Chicago Bears are going to be sick to their stomach. And let me just add this, it really doesn't make sense because how in the world can a guy put up these type of numbers, win the Heisman Trophy, dominate, have no flaws in his game whatsoever, yet NFL GMs are scared to draft him? That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is really weird to me. I'm sure we'll talk more about this. I just found it intriguing that GMs around the league are saying they're scared to draft Bryce Young. Let me know your thoughts down below, but roll with me.